Welcome to the Weekly Word Outdoor Adventures. We're in Polk County, Tennessee on the banks of Spring Creek at Maggie's Mill. There's a sign directing you to where it's at on 315. I'm standing in front of the old mill wheel. As you can see, it's 1820s when the song about when you and I were young, Maggie, was written. I didn't know until we started doing this segment and I started researching it that there's actually a controversy with Canada. Canada's trying to claim the original Maggie's Mill, but there's pretty good evidence that it is here in Polk County, Tennessee, and at least that's what the Daughters of American Revolution thought it was when they put up this monument. What it's all about is in 1820 there was a song written called When You and I Were Young, Maggie. And that song took off. It achieved a worldwide, not nationwide, but worldwide fame, even in different languages and different lands. Well, I even saw just last month watching an old Gunsmoke. Miss Kitty was singing that song, When You and I Were Young, Maggie. The first verse says, I wandered today to the hill, Maggie, to watch the scene below, the creek and the rusty old mill, Maggie, where we sat in the long, long ago. The green grove is gone from the hill, Maggie, when first the daisy sprung. The old rusty mill is still, Maggie, since you and I were young. Well, the second verse goes on to describe how their friends are buried in the cemetery up on the hill in poetic language. And there is a cemetery just up on the hill a quarter mile from here, the Morgan Cemetery. But when I went up there to research it, I found out that the Morgan Cemetery wasn't even established until 1910. That's 90 years after the song was written. But then there are a couple more cemeteries just a half mile or so away. The Birchfield Cemetery, but the oldest one is up on a hill, and up on that hill, the forest has reclaimed it, but there's I don't know, maybe 30 graves or so in it. And they are old enough, the ones that are legible, to be way, way back in the 1800s. In fact, there was one that was almost unreadable, and as I wiped it and can kind of trace the last name, you can do better with chalk on this kind of stuff, but I was actually able to see it and trace the last name, and it was Harris. So definitely there were Harrises around here way back. The whole song is about a man who's old and talking to his wife and looking back and reflecting about when they were young and the days that are gone by and now they're old. And it's much like Solomon did in Ecclesiastes 12. Ecclesiastes 12, if you want to look that up sometime, read the first 7 or 8 verses, is Solomon reflecting back as an old man and about what it's like to get old. And he starts it out, he says, remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth. Remember the Lord when you're young. He said, before the evil days come. And then he starts describing all the health problems and everything that come as we get older. He says, when the keepers of the house tremble, and the heart is broken at the cistern, or the wheel is broken at the cistern, describing the heart. And he's poetically, the grinder sees, the teeth start falling out and all these things. He said, you better remember the Lord when you're young. But if you didn't remember him when you're young, you've still got a chance. Before we leave, we're going to pan off just around behind you here and let you get a look of the old mill itself. There's the remnants of it. The old rock work is still there. At one time, that was a busy place with the wheel up here and the grinding the corn for the community 200 years ago. See you next week on the Weekly Word.